How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. How you doing, Andrew?
Good, good, good.
I
Ah,
have got Michael is my co-host, and he should be joining us soon.
sure.
Apologies, I'm just getting myself situated here in a little bit. Um, while we're waiting on him,
Mhm.
I'll let you know. So this will be recorded, audio and video. The way we do it is from video. It's a YouTube, and we do it as there'll be sort of like we'll call it like a green room or a pre-show. We'll have a little bit there, and then we have afterwards, we have like a bonus content afterwards that are video that are after the audio completes. We'll do it in one sitting as far as recording, so it'll take us about an hour. I tend to split it into two parts though of, I don't know, 20, 25-minute episodes, something along those lines. And we just do it based on how the the discussion flows, basically. So we don't come to a hard stop or anything. We just go, and then we figure it out in editing, and then figure it out from there as far as splitting it up. Um, any questions or comments or anything?
Not really. I guess are there any themes you're trying to hit that you find your audience are looking for? Just those sorts of things that we try and cover, stuff that you feel are relevant for your audience today.
Yeah, good point. That reminds me. Yeah, so we'll start with just an introduction. I'll introduce myself. Michael will introduce himself, and then we'll toss it over to you to introduce yourself and just let you, because that's typically the best way to go. And we'll actually just sort of launch the conversation from there. The audience is typically 20, 30-year-old kinds,
Mhm.
new, getting into mid-level, maybe some senior level technology people, usually with an entrepreneurial bent. So doing some sort of a side hustle or something like that as well, which is why we sort of combine the two. So we talk business. We also talk technology. So we talk to founders, but also to implementers and doers. Our current episode, our current season is focusing on essentially getting unstuck, moving forward momentum, how to just sort of make sure you're keeping things, keeping the plate spinning.
Mhm.
And that's really, I know it's a general kind of topic, but we tend to do that a little bit to talk about just like, hey, if you're trying to get over this hump or past this obstacle, here's a potential way to do so.
Mm.
Any other questions, comments, anything like that?
Not really. Look, I haven't, I can certainly talk about, my history and being entrepreneurial and coming out of engineering and building businesses and selling them and all those kind of things. So, more than happy to come up and just tell a story, I guess, and let you guys direct it, I guess,
Mhm.
and go from there. So,
Yeah,
whatever.
there's never a bad story yet. So maybe that's just me, but it's like I've never had a bad story. So if we could get
Mm.
somebody talking about their story and their background, then there's almost always a way we can land that plane and talk about whatever our topic is of the day. We can find a way to tweak it a little bit.
Mm.
And if it's a little off topic, that doesn't bother, at least doesn't bother me too much anyways, because it's like, you know what, it tends to still be something interesting to the um, typical audience and such.
Mhm.
I am recording, so I'm just going to go ahead and visually, where's my camera? Hit the record button. This is Michael that just joined us. Michael, there's Andrew. So,
Hey, Andrew, how are you?
Good, mate. Good. Michael, lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you. How's my sound?
Wonderful, mate.
good.
Mm.
How's mine?
Sounds good.
Okay, and Andrew's about the same.
Yeah, hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah, you're good. Gotcha.
Perfect.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Michael tends to be, besides a co-host, he's our audio technician at this point. That was part of the cost of him coming on. I was like, okay, you get to do all the fun stuff of
Mm.
the editing and all that kind of stuff. So we'll make sure we make his life as easy as possible. So that being said, we're just gonna dive right on into it. Unless anything is you need, Michael. All right, we're going to go right in. Tres, dos, uno. Well, hello and welcome back. We are continuing our season where we are not just building better developers and the Developer Nerd podcast, which we always are. We are talking about forward momentum. We're talking about getting unstuck. We're talking about how do potentially, as this is the start of the year, how do you actually like kickstart your year? My name is Rob Broadhead. I am one of the founders of Developer and also the founder of RB Consulting, where we help you Assess where you're at and build a roadmap for success. It's that technology checkup that everybody needs periodically. Good thing and bad thing. Wow, I've had quite an interesting one this weekend. The good thing is I'm not sitting in Middle Tennessee where there's ice and all kinds of nasty stuff that's going on there and people losing electricity. However, I am sitting in Portugal where there are winds and big lots of water and trees down and also the train system down. So a nice weekend that we were going to have that was going to be on the trains and a very comfortable ride has turned out to be planes, trains, and automobiles where we took a bus and then took a train and then didn't like the bus coming back because we're going to make it. So now we like to spend an extra night. We're going to fly. It's a pain. But the good thing is it could be worse. The bad thing is it could be better. But what is never better is having my co-host, Michael, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael Malash. I'm one of the co-founders of Developreneur. I'm also the founder of Envision QA, where we create reliable, tailored software that helps you work smarter, scale faster, and stay in control. Good things, bad things. Well, said storm Rob's mentioning, I live in Tennessee, and thankfully we had power. Unfortunately, we have been iced in for a total of about 10 days. I have not been able to leave the driveway, the house, and the animals have been scurrying across the ice in the yard for quite some time. Hopefully today, the good news is, looks like we're finally going to be above freezing this week, and hopefully all this ice will go away. I guess the other bad thing is we're supposed to get rain behind this. So if the rain comes before this ice melts, we're going to have some nice little mudslides, water slides, and flooding going on for another few days. But yeah, that's it for me.
Nothing says fun like weather, just in general. But somebody that does say fun, at least we're going to find out, is Andrew. If you want to go ahead, he's our guest today. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, sure. My name's Andrew. My background is software engineering, and I've built and sold a number of businesses over the years. I've done that as a solo entrepreneur and also as a co-founder. And I've got a long story going back to the 90s. So I've got plenty to talk about. But weather-wise, I normally live upstate New York, so I'm just near Cooperstown normally, and that is a place that is not afraid of snow and ice for sure. But like Rob, I'm currently in Europe, so I've been able to avoid that. I've got a lovely dusting of an inch or two of snow, and it's been very pleasant. No black ice, nothing. So it's been good for me. Yeah, so my background, look, I've come out of software engineering. I started off my life in university, academia, working at universities. I progressed through building some businesses, and nowadays, I'm CTO for a gaming company. I'm on board of an investment roll-up in Europe. So, we've raised some funding, and we're currently trying to grow that and identify great businesses that we can roll up and do something great together. And I'm CTO of a software development company as well. So I do a bit of fractional CTO stuff. And this month, one of my fractional jobs wound down a little bit. So, I've kicked off yet another little company for myself because there's never enough time. I wish I could do more. I wish I could learn everything, but I just have to choose. And sometimes I make good choices, sometimes I make bad choices. And no matter what happens, I enjoy every choice I make. So it's good.
So for those of you that are wondering, yes, Andrew is like what every developer listener wants to be when they grow up. I think that's what all of us are. Is we love doing it, like just love building stuff, love doing things. I think all of us like the idea of both being the solopreneur, but also the entrepreneur side of it, of like not just doing it ourselves, but actually building a business and having something that goes on and lives beyond us. So expecting a really fun conversation here. Let's start with let's go back a little bit into the early years. Let's just talk about like your first solo business and how you stepped into it. Because I'm wondering particularly if you just sort of like dove into it. Was this one of these that you side hustles your way and it eventually said, I have to do it? Or how was that? Let's start with that story, your origin story, as it were.
My origin was actually more of a collaboration. So that actually gave me the confidence by working with some great people that gave me confidence to step out and eventually try things by myself. So for me, my very first one, I was working at a university writing software, I used to do things that back then I called math, but nowadays everyone calls AI. I was predicting koala populations in sheep grazing fields, and I was predicting tree girth based upon environmental factors and things like that. But nowadays, an LLM can probably do it, well, try and do it, but we'll probably get it wrong. But that's the kind of stuff I was doing, and I kind of identified this guy called Tim Berners-Lee popped up and said, "Yeah, hey, here's this web stuff. This looks really cool." And I thought, "Wow, awesome!" So, I was sitting around with my team leader at a company that I was working with, and uh, he was working on an invoicing system for a muffler shop. So he was just doing the billing, really, really boring point of sale stuff. Uh, Apologies for any muffler sales guys out there, but uh, boring point of sale stuff. And we decided that this dial-up internet thing looked pretty cool. And like, how do we do that? I wanted to learn Linux. I wanted to learn web stuff, and I saw this as becoming a really big thing. Anyway, so I got together with two mates, my team lead, my engineering team lead at the time, who eventually became my best man at my wedding, and also the guy that owned the muffler shop, and we put together an ISP, a dial-up ISP. We had Stallion boards. We had at one stage we gave away a no engaged signal guarantee to our subscribers because we had more modems than people dialing in. So that was an easy thing for us to easily give away. Yeah, it's a terrible story from so long ago, but it was something that really taught me a lot. I learned the power of working with people that had great skills. So I was able to identify that, the guy that owned Muffler Shop, he was commercially really viable. He knew his stuff. He knew how to commercialize stuff. He knew how to sell stuff. Me, I was a great software engineer. I knew how to write code. And my team lead, he was an infrastructure guy. So he taught me a lot about modems and things like that. So we kind of formed together a little jigsaw puzzle that I guess that fit really well from our skill set. And that really gave me the confidence to step beyond that and into bigger and better things. So, I was lucky to have good friends and step up based upon that. The solo stuff, I might talk about my latest thing I'm doing. For me, again, January this year, well, 2 days ago, no, January started, I guess, but sorry, January ended. I've gotten into cybersecurity as security's always been a thing. So at the moment, I'm really, really focused on how to simplify cybersecurity for small and medium enterprises. And I'm not talking about how to make your laptop secure. I'm talking about inbound uh, security researcher queries. So people, when they report an issue with your product or something, I'm looking at workflows through that, how to identify it, how to actually vet them, how to respond to a policy for, bug bounty programs, how to make that simpler for people. So, there are platforms out there like HackerOne and that do these sorts of things, but mine is a little bit differently focused. It's a little bit more software, more entrepreneur friendly, I guess, more small and medium enterprise. So it's certainly uh, very interesting from that perspective. I just realized my alerts just came through, so hopefully that didn't pop up on over the sound. But
Nope.
oh, good. Okay. I've just turned off the software in the background, so I get no more. All right, so that's kind of where it is. Like, would I do what I did today, and what have I learned over the time? One, I've identified for myself that being a solo developer is great. It gives me a lot of time to focus on my code and getting things right. But the more I focus on my code, the less I can focus on maybe sales or maybe marketing or how to connect my audience. So those are all sorts of things that I've tried to work out of time, and it's been great to wear the hat of all different sorts of trades and things like that. So it's from that experience. Sorry, again, I'm getting notifications, so apologies. I should have shut this all down prior. Um, just trying to go into do not disturb mode. There we go. Apologies.
That's okay. Rob had instances of that in the past as well.
Yeah, it's just so annoying. Hopefully you can discount that. So apologies. All right.
He'll edit that out.
Yeah.
There you go.
Perfect. All right. So What I've learned over time being the solo guy, wearing all the different hats to say marketing and things like that, it's difficult and quite a balance to, not only identify what you want to do, but go out there and hunt it, kill it, drag it back, carve it up and eat it. And while you're too busy eating it, you're losing the business that's getting away. So that's always something that I found quite tricky. I think in the time of AI now, LLMs are great for me to plan my solo marketing campaigns. Like I get them easily to help me write up my social media posts for the week or things like that, or at least give me, not write them, but at least give me a plan. So, I'll often come up with what I want to do. I'll use one LLM to help me plan what I want to do, and I'll use another LLM. They'll compare my plan versus the plan that it generated and mark it like a teacher. So, I'll use two tools to help me deliver quicker, deliver better. I also find that looking at various LLMs also helps with my code quality. Like I don't write production code with AI, but I'll certainly get it to do a static analysis of my code. I'll certainly get it to look at uh, my plan of code, like what have I missed. I'll get it to make me write better test cases, things like that. So very, very interesting from that perspective. Debugging is great. Uh, Cutting and pasting in an error message is fantastic to help me research. I do treat a lot of AI as a shortcut of Google. Gone are the days where you stick it in and go 25 pages of Google Deep to find the specific Stack Overflow issue. Uh, but you can get something maybe close sooner. So from that productivity perspective, I still use AI for a lot of tools. AI, of course, is a or a channel to market as well, and we can talk about that perhaps. But yeah, I guess that's where I started. I started as something I identified with friends. We became better. From there, I moved on to other things or another time I was sitting with guys at a pub and we saw what was going on. We thought we could do something better, and we wrote that again. And that's one of my most successful projects. And they weren't friends, but they became friends after many, many years and many, many scars and battles we had together to get things going, all the way through to solo stuff. And for others as well, I ended up by marrying my best partner. So my wife and I have been working on businesses now for almost 20 years. So it's been a very, very uh, good experience as well to be able to bring that in house and not be so lonely, I guess, because that's often something that we don't necessarily talk about as entrepreneurs enough. It's difficult that your work drags you away from your family, but it's great to have a life partner there as well.
Wow, there's a lot there.
All right.
Yeah, I guess to start with, it is amusing to me because it's been a while. It's been 30, almost 40 years now since the dial-up days, the early dial-up days, and it's amazing to me how many people I talk to that are in consulting and software companies that they can trace it back to. Well, initially we did some ISP work, back in the 90s. That was what everybody did. It seemed like it was the easy thing to do. It was sort of like the obvious choice to just everybody needed it. Everybody needed a local one. They didn't want to use, or CompuServe or America Online or one of those kinds of things. And the little local ones, tended to be a lot better. And so it's amazing how many people start with that. And then somewhere along the way, they found a product or they had a customer. And then the next thing you know, they're building, like you said, the web was starting to become a thing. And so now they're starting to build websites, and it grew from there. So that is in the background of so many stories that I've heard. It's really interesting. Before I go on, I do want to mention, I've never really talked about that either, but I think there are downsides to working with family, whether it's your kids or your spouse or something or your cousins or anything like that. But I think there's also a lot of benefits to that as well. And I would say particularly spouse. My wife has worked with me as well, and it makes the conversations much more interesting because now you actually have somebody that you can talk to, especially if you're I'm sure you're like us, where you're thinking about your job and business all the time. It's just always like an idea will come up. You'll be out sitting on a lake fishing and someone like, hey, I've got this idea, and it's really great to be able to like just bounce that off of somebody and have that sounding board and not just have that conversation run in your head. Before I guess one thing before, and this may take us off on another path anyways, is like, how do you mentioned you laid out a lot of areas that you use AI. I refer to it as using it sort of like a virtual assistant because it's just like it can do all these little things. I love passing it back and forth between LLMs and just sort of say, well, what do you think? What do you think? Especially when I'll say like, write this so it doesn't sound like AI wrote it. And then I'll pass it back and forth a couple of times and like clean some stuff up and then get it to a point where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, now this makes sense. And gosh, debugging, if you're not using anybody out there, if you're not using AI for debugging, that is, I think, the quickest, easiest way to get a big return on investment. Particularly, I've found configuration type issues and typo kinds of issues that end up in code. You can throw something there and very quickly have it tell you like this is exactly where it is, or oh, you forgot this. The stuff that you need that second set of eyes. It is a great second set of eyes in that case. But now, with that, have you felt like it has freed you maybe to pursue more of those ideas? You said, you start out by saying there's not enough hours in the day. Do you feel like this is something that sort of has given you a little bit of that freedom to be like, oh, now I can actually pursue a couple more of these things and product ideas that I had?
Absolutely. There's a few things in there. One, I'll use AI to help me scaffold an idea quickly. So I'll do a proof of concept or something, and I'll get it to show me, I'll get it to help me show a core bit of functionality or a new idea so I can demo it quickly. Again, I don't use any of this code in production ever. It's my suggestion never to do that. I'll also even use AI and ask it to take on personas. So I'll try and identify who my users are, and I'll get the AI to be that user and give me feedback as that user. If I'm writing an architecture document for a customer, I'll brief it that it's a certified cloud architect or something, and to say, hey, find the faults with this, and things like that. So I'll work with that. Does it allow me to deliver faster? It allows me to do rapid prototyping exceptionally fast. It allows me to demonstrate value or ideas really, really quickly. So, yeah, one thing I don't like about LLMs is it's too supportive. Things like ChatGPT are famous for always saying, yes, what a wonderful idea. And we all know that's crap. Apologies for the language. But I've had over my time, I've had failures of people, I've had failures of processes, I've had, one of my first real businesses, I had one of my accountants make a mistake in my early year that cost me a lot with the tax authorities. So, there's things you've got to keep your eyes on over the years, and things you've got to fix, and you can't drop the ball on those things. And, I'd love to see a lot more use of an assistant, and I like to call them tooling. For me, I see AI as either a tool, so helping me become faster and better at what I do, or as a channel, right? So that's trying to identify, if I'm an e-commerce person rather than SEO, I should be thinking about AI optimization, where when you ask about a product or a service in ChatGPT, my product or service pops up as a recommendation rather than, maybe my competitors. So making sure that my products and services are discoverable, indexed, and referenced by AI as well is essential. So to me, that's a channel. So people go and ask, I don't know, what's the best product for X purpose, and my product or service pops up when it comes in from there. Obviously, that requires seeding of Reddit and all those sorts of other techniques that are a bit shady, perhaps. But if you've built a community as well, that will certainly help in that space. So a lot to do in there. So yeah, AI tooling, AI optimization of workflow is critical and something I use a lot.
Yeah, that was actually a conversation I had actually with my wife the other day. We were talking about that as we were talking about AI, and we were like, and how infamously positive it is about like, oh, that's a great idea. And we chastised it on a regular basis and said, no, don't tell us this. Don't tell it. Like, give us the poke the holes in the theories. And we were actually postulating, and this is something for everybody to try out. This next time you're on an LLM, any of them, is say, hey, always take the negative approach or something like that. It's like turn it into just something that's always trying to pick apart your ideas. And it might turn it into some sort of sociopath, but it also may get you some really good, like really good job of picking holes in your ideas.
Absolutely. I'm also leaning towards a lot of open source that I run locally as well, self-hosted. There's Clawbot that was recently released in the last few days, and people were downloading the wrong or counterfeit versions of Clawbot. People were installing plugins that were not safe or secure. So I tend to avoid the consumer models. I use the enterprise models. So the top end paid for public models, or I'll use my own open source ones that I run locally. So it's a little bit more safe and secure for me.
Mhm.
Interesting. Yeah, I've used AI quite a bit for testing software and things of that nature, and you can actually work on your chatbot a little bit, the prompts and that to get it to be a little less positive, a little more critical. But I think it's the nature of the beast. They're trying not to make people think that AI is coming after them like the Terminator, but it's almost like that feel like they're trying to make it comfortable for everyone to use versus make it more realistic, more like a person, because then people will start to maybe judge it or be a little more afraid of it. I want to circle back around for a minute, though. Kind of back to your beginning conversation about all the ventures you're kind of involved in and all the things you do. How do you keep it straight? Because I know I run into the same problem where you get stuck working in your business, you're not working enough on your business with marketing and things of that nature. It sounds like you have so many different things going on. How do you stay focused to make sure that your companies are moving forward, that things are getting done, and that you don't get stuck going down too many rabbit holes, and the next thing you know, nothing gets done?
Yeah, that's often something I've fallen victim to myself. Like at the moment, I've written a book that's currently with editors. I've got 149 edits I've got to change. They gave that to me in November. It's now February and I haven't touched it. So, I've got to work on some things better. For me, it's all about time management. My sleep patterns are terrible. I'm certainly not getting enough sleep. This is actually a face of a 20-year-old, not much more mature man. So I'm not sleep. I exist on a lot less sleep because I can't, because there's always something to do. For me, it's curiosity. I look for myself, and even with people I work for, I like curiosity. I like collaboration. I like autonomy as well. So, I'll discover something because I'm interested in it. At the moment, I've been looking at Meshtastic and a few other alternative communications methods, and I go out and research that. I can even ask my LLM again. I hate to bang on about AI, but it'll give me a market overview fairly quickly, so I can get up to speed on a concept really quickly. And then if it's something of interest, I'll delve deeper on my own. I miss my research librarians back in my university days. So that aside, um, how do I keep things going? Well, I've got to eat first, so I always prioritize my customers that expect certain hours, certain contact times. They always remain a top priority. So they are contracted hours or whatever, and that's what they get. But as I said, it's fractional, so I'm not full time with them at all. So I'll do the exact hours that they want. I always do extra as well because they expect it, I expect it, and it's the nature of doing a good job. But uh, I tend to manage myself in sprints, I guess. So, I'll have a clear picture of what I want to achieve, and I'll want to have a date for that. So I'll say I need to do that in January, or I need to do that this week. So I tend to talk in round numbers of today, this week, this month for my timing, and I'll say, okay, this month I want to release this feature on that product, or I want to finally do those edits on that book. And things like that. So I'll have a goal for the month and I'll break that down as I go and I prioritize based upon that. So I do run myself on sprints and I do have a plan for 2026 that I know I want to achieve these certain things. But I never pack that full. One of the things I learned managing large teams in software organizations, a lot of project managers, even a lot of engineering managers, look at their staff and time them at 100% availability. We all know that's not true. You've got sick leave, annual leave, you've got meetings, all those sorts of things. So I'll cut it down to 80% or 60% based upon the culture of the company. And even my own time, I'll cut down. And then I try and leave that innovation time as well. I remember once upon a time, Google used to have their 20% time. I don't think it exists anymore, but maybe it does. Somebody from Google correct me. But there's that innovation time you need to be able to sit back and look at the industry. And quite frankly, one thing I've tried never to lose between my C-level roles and my board roles down to, and today I still write code, is that if I don't put aside time to write code, to engage with engineers, to read that technical white paper, to see the latest release from Amazon or Google, I'm going to be out of touch so quickly. So I try and make sure that I have personal development time because me being a good professional requires my constant personal development. And that also helps my customers, it helps my products, and it helps me and my own curiosity to engineer things better. So I guess that's a long-winded answer. I'm full of long-winded answers today, but I do break it down to sprints, and I do categorize everything. So what am I going to achieve today? What am I going to achieve this week? What am I going to achieve this month? Definitely my big things, and then I've got future things. What I'd love to be doing, and those are the things that right now there's a new musical instrument I want to learn, and I haven't gotten to it yet. So I'm very, very disappointed I haven't gotten there, but I'll get there. That's a 2026 plan.
It's interesting because a lot of the things you mentioned and discussed, I've kind of gone through over the years and have been through many different cycles. Sleep has always been one that I sacrifice the most. Although this past year, I've tried to get back more into a semi more routine sleep cycle, especially with all this ice and snow. It's made it easy. Just hibernate. You can't go anywhere.
And that is where we're going to pause this episode. But do not be afraid. Have no fear, because there's nothing to fear but fear itself. But we will be back. We're going to continue our conversation, and it continues to be a really good one. This was one of those that it was really fun asking a question and just letting him go. And there was just like mentally, I was trying to unpack things as we go. I was trying to just like take notes and do all the things that I could because there's a lot of great information there. This is one of those I think I'm gonna go back and listen to it probably a couple of times again, just because there were a lot of little things I was like, oh yeah, there's an idea. There's an idea. Here's something I should do. There's something I should do. Here's something I should think about. And a lot of those. So hopefully you guys weren't overwhelmed. And if you are, get a bigger notebook because we do have a part 2 coming around next time. Thanks for hanging out with us, though. Like I said, we will continue. We will get part 2 in our next episode, and we are not done with our season. We have got plenty more ways for you to get that forward momentum as we get into our new year. As always, go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time.